Slava Isusu Christu. Glory to the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Paul, a prisoner of Christ and a prisoner for Christ. For the Apostle Paul suffered more than all the other apostles for the sake of the gospel. And he was even misunderstood and perhaps persecuted a bit by some of the other apostles who did not understand that Christ intended his word and his sacrifice for all mankind, and not just for one nation or one people. But he reached out and embraced everyone and all equally. And Apostle Paul went forth with his heart open to the whole world and poured out the love of Jesus Christ upon all mankind. Today in the gospel, we see a powerful message to those who are so concerned about the things of this world and about temporary things. It's wise to take thought for the future and to prepare to save for one's retirement, to prepare for those years when one doesn't have a regular income from work. It's wise to prepare for times that might be difficult, to have insurance, all these other things that we do in this life, because we live in this world. Why is it, though, that people think so much about preparing for the things of this world and not preparing their soul for everlasting life? This is one of our, perhaps, tragedies, and it's a very difficult thing for us to think about the future, the eternal future. Yet why should we so easily think about the future in this world, in this life, and think about providing money and stability for the time when we retire, the last years of this life? Taking insurance, of course, to think about if something happens to us, to take care of our children, our spouse, and yet not to think about preparing for the world which is to come, for that age of immortality, of everlasting life. There's another message here also. You know that many of the sectarians preach what we call a prosperity gospel, that somehow being a Christian is supposed to lead you to wealth, or at least to a very comfortable financial life. That they will focus their whole faith and their whole belief on the fact that they're supposed to be rewarded in this world already with wealth, with well-being. And that itself detracts people from thinking about their relationship with other human beings, from thinking about the eternal future, from thinking about the condition of their soul day by day. But Orthodox Christians were called upon to take thought for the heavenly kingdom, to take thought for finding the heavenly kingdom within our hearts already in this life, to that daily struggle, trying to catch ourselves when we're doing something that we know is going to hurt another person, trying to catch ourselves when we know that we're doing something we should not be doing. Sometimes even Orthodox Christians will find themselves cheating someplace, cheating a customer perhaps, taking something that actually doesn't belong to them, saying bad things or gossiping or slandering another person. All these things that are so harshly condemned in the Scripture that we don't take thought for. How many times have we caught ourselves in the middle of saying something negative or bad about another person and stopped ourselves? And we really should apologize to the person we're talking to because we're leading them into sin also by having them listen to what we're saying. Now, how many times do we actually catch ourselves and stop ourselves in the middle of a paragraph or a sentence and say, forgive me, God, I know that I shouldn't be saying these things. I know that they're condemned. Gossip, slander, backbiting. How many times do we get angry with our children, more angry than we should, and cause them some grief and distress by overreacting? And how often do we actually apologize to them for it? Children are also human beings and they have feelings. And we should the more readily apologize to our own children when we've wronged them or overreacted or frightened them. And certainly we should apologize to one another. If a husband and wife have an argument and the children overhear the argument, then both husband and wife should ask their children's forgiveness and apologize to them and apologize to one another. As the apostle says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. We need to think about these things because they're very meaningful and significant. It's really the true Christian life. We always sort of skim the surface of the Orthodox Christian faith, skim the surface of the Christian life, and never really dive into it. This gospel today really is calling us to think deeply about our faith, our Orthodox faith, about what Christianity actually means. You never know when you're going to depart from this life. And it's better to try to leave some peacefulness and happiness behind you. Of course, when you spend your whole life gathering wealth and hoarding it, your children will be glad you're dead because then they'll have it all for themselves. But this is what the gospel is telling us today, is build up treasures for the heavenly kingdom. Think beyond your retirement years. Think beyond your RRSP. Think beyond your pension fund. And think all the way into eternity, into the kingdom of the living God. And store up treasures for that also. Make plans for it as well. Be careful and make careful preparations day by day, because no one knows when they will depart this life. Brothers and sisters, the Christian life, the true Christian life, is not about just saying your prayers, making the sign of the cross. And remember, as we said over and over again, don't think that you're living a Christian life just because you follow some moral rules and regulations. Just because we hold on to superstitions that are not part of the faith but were handed down to us as if they were. There is no Christianity without a forgiving, merciful love and compassion. There is no orthodoxy without compassion, without forgiveness, without love. And not a fake love. Not a love that's just slogans or sayings, but a love that comes forth from the heart, filled with compassion, filled with forgiveness, filled with a deep feeling of brotherhood, sisterhood among your brothers and sisters gathered here, so that you can extend that outward toward the world itself. This is the true Christian life. So many people reduce it down to a law. And they reduce it down to regulations and canons and obedience in too many things. And yet they become cruel, angry, sometimes bitter, full of judgment and condemnation, and actually close the doors of paradise against themselves, while trying so desperately to fulfill all the rules and the regulations. Open up your hearts and find out what Christianity is really all about. what the Orthodox faith really consists in. Let us all strive to become spiritual healers in this world and try, struggle, and pray that we may not be those who wound the heart or the soul of other human beings. Amen.
Amen.